Imagine holding like a Willy Wonka golden ticket.
Okay.
Just a guaranteed, universally recognized pass to this high-paying, ultra-prestigious career.
Right, the dream.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now imagine taking that golden ticket, ripping it into tiny pieces, throwing it in the trash, and just deciding to make $0 for the next 6 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's quite a pivot.
Right. It totally defies almost every expectation we have about, success, ambition, and frankly, just common sense.
No, for sure.
So today, we are taking a deep dive into a man who did exactly that. His name is Saurabh Bothra, and his journey involves basically abandoning this culturally worshipped career path to eventually build a daily habit that, wait for it, 12.6 million people across 169 countries now follow.
It's just mind-blowing. It really is a complete subversion of like the traditional architectural blueprint for a career.
Yeah.
Because we are so accustomed to the narrative of the straight line,
Yeah.
You go to the elite school, you secure the top-tier job, and you just climb the ladder without looking down.
Always up, never sideways.
Exactly. But Bothra's story requires us to examine what happens when that ladder is not just missing rungs, but is intentionally discarded.
Run away completely.
Right. And our mission for this deep dive is to dissect the anatomy of what we can really only call relentless consistency. By breaking down the specific mechanics of his journey, we want to uncover how you, the listener, can build a system in your own life that is fundamentally stronger and more resilient than the fragile pursuit of just instant success.
So to understand the massive scale of Bothra's company, Habuild, we really have to start at the genesis of his career, which requires understanding the immense gravity of the expectations he just chose to walk away from.
Yeah, you have to know what he gave up.
Right. So Bothra's journey actually started at IIT-BHU. And for anyone listening who might not be, intimately familiar with the Indian educational landscape, gaining admission to an Indian Institute of Technology is roughly the equivalent of like getting into MIT, Stanford, and Harvard all rolled into one.
Yeah, it's huge.
And then multiplying the competition by an order of magnitude. It is the absolute pinnacle of academic and engineering prestige.
It really carries a cultural weight that is just difficult to overstate. I mean, in many ways, graduating from an institution like that is viewed as the finish line of life struggles.
You made it.
Right. Your identity is cemented as the successful engineer, and the societal expectation is that you will just coast on that prestige into a lucrative, stable corporate existence.
Okay, let's unpack this.
So, hey.
Because you graduate with this supreme credential, right? The golden ticket.
Yeah.
You have the respect of your family, your peers, your entire community. The path forward is frictionless.
Yeah.
And yet, instead of cashing that ticket in, Bothra spent the next 6 years with absolutely no stable income.
Yeah, nothing.
None. Zero. Which forces a rather uncomfortable question, I think. Why is it that the people who have the clearest, most universally guaranteed paths to traditional wealth and status are sometimes the ones who feel the most overwhelming urge to completely detonate those paths?
What's fascinating here is the sheer psychological toll of those 6 years. Culturally, we tend to look back at these periods of wandering through this highly distorted lens of eventual success.
Oh, yeah. We love the hindsight.
We do. We romanticize the struggle because we know the happy ending. But living through 6 years of zero stable income, day in and day out, especially after holding that golden ticket, is an agonizing exercise in cognitive dissonance.
I can't even imagine.
Society generally labels that kind of wandering as a failure. You have the elite degree, but you are conspicuously not using it.
Right. You're watching your peers buy homes, get promotions, build these conventional lives, and you're just like seemingly stagnant.
Exactly. However, from a psychological and developmental standpoint, that void is often a strictly necessary incubation period.
But wait, how does making $0 for 6 years act as an incubation period? I mean, it sounds more like an extended punishment to me.
Well, when you are placed on a highly prestigious, hyper-competitive track from a young age, your identity is entirely prescribed for you.
Oh, I see.
You are the high achiever. You are the engineer. The external validation is so loud that you never actually have to listen to your own internal compass.
Right.
So stripping away the income and the status forces a brutal confrontation with the self. It burns off all the external expectations like a forest fire clearing dead brush.
Wow, yeah.
Those 6 years weren't a delay in his journey or some prolonged mistake. They were the grueling foundational work required to figure out what his actual purpose was, completely divorced from what his community told him it should be.
Okay, so that brings us to the catalyst that ended the wandering. This wasn't some sudden epiphany during a Silicon Valley networking event, right?
Yeah.
Or a moment of inspiration while reading a business book.
No, not at all.
It was a deeply physical geographic journey. During a trip from Benares to Nagpur, a chance encounter led Bothra to a meditation group. And this is where the narrative shifts gears entirely.
It really does.
Because it wasn't just a vague spiritual awakening. Through this newly adopted regular practice, he experienced real, tangible relief from a severe case of childhood asthma. Like, for the first time in his life, he could breathe freely.
That physical healing is the structural hinge point of his entire life. It fundamentally alters the motivation from something abstract into something undeniably concrete.
Right. I always try to visualize these turning points. And instead of a vague metaphor, imagine a brilliant medical researcher who spends decades in a pristine laboratory studying respiratory diseases.
Okay, yeah.
They know all the theory, they know the cellular mechanics, they have all the degrees. But they only truly understand the sheer terror of the disease and the absolute miracle of a cure when they develop the condition themselves, and a specific localized therapy actually saves their own life.
That's a great comparison.
So, is the most powerful knowledge we can possess always the kind we physically endure and resolve within our own bodies, rather than what we absorb in a lecture hall?
That is a phenomenal way to frame it, and it highlights the transition from the theoretical to the visceral.
Yeah.
When you utilize a practice to cure an ailment that has plagued your existence since childhood, especially something like asthma, which literally restricts your fundamental ability to take in oxygen.
Right. You're literally fighting for breath.
Exactly. The value of that practice ceases to be a matter of debate. It explains the intensity of his subsequent commitment to yoga and breathwork. This was not a strategic career pivot or an attempt to find a trendy market niche. It was a lifeline.
A lifeline. Wow.
Yeah.
When you frame it like that, everything changes.
Yeah.
Because you don't casually put down the lifeline when you get bored. You hold on to it with a death grip.
You do. When your fundamental quality of life, your literal ability to breathe without panic, is tied to a specific daily practice, you no longer require any external motivation to execute that practice.
No alarms needed for that.
Right. You aren't doing it to impress venture capitalists, and you aren't doing it to build a resume. You are doing it because it gave you your life back. That creates an internal foundation of conviction that an engineering degree from the most prestigious university on earth simply cannot provide.
But, even with that profound, visceral conviction, the universe didn't just part the clouds and hand him a yoga empire.
No, of course not.
There was still immense friction. By 2014, Bothra knew exactly what his lifeline was. He knew his path was yoga, not engineering. Yet, he didn't boldly march off into the sunset to start teaching. He actually went backward.
He did.
He returned to his family's business.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what we are observing is the relapse of safety. And it is an incredibly common, almost universal human behavior.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Even when we have discovered our true calling, even when we possess visceral bodily proof of that calling, like he did with the asthma relief, the gravitational pull of what is safe and known remains overwhelmingly strong.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because we are constantly fed these mythological cinematic stories of the clean break.
Yes, the big cinematic moment.
Right. The hero realizes their destiny, they burn the ships, they storm the castle, and they never look back. But Bothra went back to the office.
He sat right back down at the desk.
Exactly. And my hypothesis here isn't that he went back because he was suddenly terrified or doubting the yoga. I think it almost feels like he went back to the family business to intentionally trigger an allergic reaction to that lifestyle.
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
Like he needed to physically sit at that desk one last time to prove to himself that it was a dead end. Does everyone need that false start to validate their true path? Is returning to the comfortable family business the ultimate test of whether you're actually ready to face the unknown?
That is a highly perceptive reading of the situation. The family business represents a known quantity. It is predictable, it carries zero social risk, and it comes with built-in, immediate approval from your immediate circle.
Right, everyone's happy you're there.
Exactly. And when you are standing on the precipice of the unknown, planning to travel across India to teach yoga with zero guaranteed income or infrastructure, that safety net looks incredibly seductive.
Oh, for sure.
But returning to that desk creates immense psychological friction.
Because you are now a totally different person trying to fit into the old mold.
Precisely. The opposite of comfort occurs. Once your worldview has expanded and you have found genuine purpose, attempting to squeeze yourself back into the small, safe box of your previous life becomes physically and mentally unbearable.
You just outgrow the box.
He only lasted 3 months, but those 90 days were likely the most vital period of his professional development.
Wow, really? Just 3 months?
Just 3 months. He had to feel the friction of living out of alignment with his new truth. Those 3 months provided the final, definitive layer of psychological closure required to cut the safety net completely and permanently.
And once that net was finally severed, the momentum shifted. He left the family business and began traveling across India, simply teaching yoga, putting in the repetitions. And from that grinding, unglamorous baseline, the scale of what he eventually built is almost difficult to conceptualize.
It really is.
Let's look at the actual numbers behind Habuild. In 2023, they set a world record with 134,057 participants in a single synchronous virtual yoga class.
Incredible.
Right. And then in 2024, they obliterated their own milestone, securing a Guinness World Record with 246,252 concurrent viewers in a single live stream.
Just massive numbers.
Today, the platform serves 12.6 million students across 169 countries.
The sheer volume of that digital footprint is staggering, but what is truly remarkable is the mechanism of that scale.
Which is exactly what I want to dig into. Let's visualize 246,000 people for a second. If you take the largest sports stadium in the world and pack it to the absolute rafters with screaming fans, then you build a second stadium right next to it and pack that one too, and then you add another half a stadium. Wait, no, sorry, you add another half a stadium. That is the number of individual human beings breathing, moving, and stretching at the exact same millisecond.
It's hard to even picture.
Right, all anchored by one man on a screen. How does a single person mechanically and psychologically manage that? Like, in a culture that is utterly obsessed with the dopamine hit of going viral, how does a human being keep their ego in check when suddenly 12 million people are watching them breathe?
Well, the digital architecture of his platform is what makes the scale mechanically possible. The frictionless nature of logging into a virtual session via simple links or messaging platforms totally removes the geographic bottleneck of a physical studio.
Sure, the tech solves the logistics.
Exactly. But the psychological management of that scale requires a profound, almost monastic detachment from the metrics themselves. We fixate on the viral moment, the 246,000 concurrent viewers, because it is an easy data point to grasp.
It makes a great headline.
Right. But in doing so, we completely ignore the quiet, invisible years where the ego was actually forged.
The years traveling across India, teaching to nearly empty rooms.
Consider the discipline required to teach with absolute conviction when there are only 3 people in the room.
Yeah, that takes a different kind of strength.
When you spend years delivering your lifeline to tiny, unglamorous audiences without any viral applause or data dashboards validating your existence, you build an ego that is anchored entirely in the execution of the work rather than the reception of the reward.
That's a great point.
If his primary goal was to be famous or to hit a subscriber milestone, the 6 years of zero income would have broken him.
He would have quit in year 2.
Exactly. Because the goal was the practice itself, the sharing of the breath that cured his asthma. The scale of the audience does not alter the fundamental nature of the task. Whether he is looking at 5 people in a community hall in Nagpur or a digital counter displaying 250,000 viewers, the breath is identical. The mechanics of the poses do not change.
Which brings us to the absolute core engine behind this entire massive enterprise. How do you sustain that level of output without eventually burning out or breaking down?
It's a huge challenge.
Right. And the answer lies in a specific, totally inflexible boundary Bothra set for himself. For 5 entire years, covering well over 1,800 consecutive days, he has not missed a single daily class.
That's over 1,800 days.
Yes. And the list of obstacles he ignored to maintain this streak is mind-bending. He didn't cancel for weddings. He didn't cancel for severe illnesses. He didn't even cancel when he suffered a broken leg.
Unbelievable.
The man literally dragged a fractured limb to his mat and taught yoga anyway.
This raises an important question about the underlying psychology of the unbroken chain. We have a tendency to view consistency purely as a test of raw willpower.
Like pushing a boulder up a hill.
Exactly. We think successful people just have more grit. But relying on willpower is fundamentally a losing game. It is a finite resource that depletes rapidly when faced with stress, fatigue, or, a broken bone.
Right. Willpower runs out.
It does. What Bothra accomplished by refusing to break his daily chain for 5 years operates on a completely different psychological framework. When you choose to teach a physically demanding class with a fractured leg, or when you excuse yourself from a major family celebration to log on to a live stream, you are sending a radical, undeniable signal to your own neurology.
So what does this all mean? When I hear about someone teaching through a broken leg, I don't think about willpower. I think about critical infrastructure.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, imagine a city's power grid. The engineers running the power grid don't wake up every morning and have a debate over coffee about whether they feel motivated enough to keep the electricity flowing today.
Definitely not.
They don't turn off the power grid because it's a holiday or because it's raining or because they feel a little under the weather. The grid is the baseline requirement for the city to exist. It isn't a choice. It is an infrastructural absolute.
Right.
So is the secret to mastery actually about removing the burden of choice? When you decide that a broken leg won't stop you, do you suddenly free up all the mental energy you used to spend making excuses?
Decision fatigue is the silent killer of consistency. Every morning that you wake up and ask yourself, am I too tired today? Is my throat a little scratchy? Should I skip the practice just this once?
We all do that.
We do, and you are burning vital cognitive fuel when you do it. By removing the choice entirely, you liberate all that mental energy to focus strictly on the execution.
Wow.
The task transitions from being an activity you participate in into a foundational tiller of who you are. It becomes an identity. He didn't just build a successful business. He engineered an identity that is immune to circumstance. A reason to never stop is exponentially more powerful than a desire to succeed.
Because success is external.
Exactly. Success is an external condition. It is subject to market forces and algorithms. A reason to never stop is an internally generated engine that runs regardless of the weather.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, the question we want to leave you with as you look at the blueprints and habits in your own life is this. Are you spending all your energy chasing a Guinness World Record in your career, hoping for that singular viral moment of instant validation?
Or are you quietly, methodically building a daily foundation, an infrastructural power grid that you would willingly show up to maintain even if everything went wrong?
It ultimately comes down to finding that core driver, that personal lifeline, which operates entirely independently of external applause.
Building a reason to never stop.
Exactly. And it leaves me with one final lingering thought to mull over. We know that Saurabh Bothra's relentless, unyielding consistency was born from something incredibly primal, the profound physical relief of curing his own asthma. He was, quite literally, fighting for his breath. But what happens to our own daily commitments when they were driven merely by ambition or a desire for a higher salary rather than pure survival?
That's the tough part.
It is. Can we ever truly be as perfectly consistent as someone who has stared down a physical ailment and won? And if not, how do we artificially construct that same level of absolute life or death stakes in our own lives so that we too can find our definitive reason to never stop?